Imagine discovering that the most feared species in the galaxy once showed mercy to humanity when we were nothing but primitive savages. Imagine learning that this single act of compassion became humanity's greatest obsession, driving us to heights of achievement that would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. What happens when a species built on honor and tradition realizes that the grateful pets they once spared have become the most dangerous force the universe has ever known? What happens when mercy becomes the seed of legend, and gratitude transforms into something far more powerful than revenge? This is the story of how one moment of alien compassion created humanity's greatest monument and their most terrifying legacy. This is the story of how we immortalized their name in ways they never imagined possible. Welcome to the tale of the Corvani paradox, where mercy and gratitude collide with human determination to create something that will echo through the cosmos for eternity. The ancient archives deep beneath New Geneva hummed with the quiet energy of preservation technology that had outlasted 3 human civilizations. Dr. Elena Vasquez moved through the crystalline corridors with the reverence of someone approaching a shrine, her footsteps echoing softly against walls that held the memories of a species that had traveled from mud huts to starships in less than 2 millennia. She paused before the primary historical vault, her biometric scan triggering locks that had protected humanity's most precious records for over 800 years. The massive doors slid apart with a whisper, revealing the chamber where truth waited in quantum storage matrices that could preserve data until the heat death of the universe. Computer, access the Corvani incident files. Authentication Vasquez Alpha 779. Authentication confirmed, Dr. Vasquez. Warning: these files contain classified historical data under the Galactic Heritage Protection Act. Unauthorized distribution carries severe penalties. Elena's fingers trembled slightly as she approached the central holographic display. As the new head of the Department of Xenohistorical Studies, she had finally earned clearance to view the complete record of humanity's first contact with intelligent alien life. The sanitized versions taught in schools barely scratched the surface of what really happened on that day that changed everything. The hologram flickered to life, showing a blue-green world that looked remarkably similar to ancient Earth. The date stamp read, October 15th, 2157 CE, Standard Terran Calendar. Begin playback of primary source record 001, Corvani. The scene materialized around her with startling clarity. She stood in what appeared to be a primitive human settlement, watching as crude stone buildings housed perhaps 3,000 souls who represented the entirety of humanity's presence on the colony world of Kepler 442b. The colonists moved about their daily tasks with the determination of people who knew that survival depended on every action, every decision. Dr. Vasquez had read about the early colony ships, those desperate vessels that carried humanity's hope to distant worlds after Earth's resources began failing. The Kepler colony had been one of the most remote, chosen specifically because its isolation might protect humanity's genetic heritage if Earth fell to environmental collapse. The hologram shifted, and she found herself standing in the colony's command center, a modest building that served as both government hall and communications hub. Colonial Administrator Sarah Chun stood before a primitive quantum radio, her face pale with fear and determination. This is Kepler Colony calling any Earth vessel, any human outpost, anyone who can hear this transmission. We have contact. Repeat, we have confirmed contact with non-human intelligence. The recording continued, but Elena knew this part of the story. Chen's desperate messages had never reached Earth. Humanity's home world wouldn't learn of the Corvani for another 73 years, long after the events that would reshape the galaxy had already unfolded. Computer advanced to visual contact moment. The scene shifted to show the colony's perimeter, where hastily constructed walls of local stone formed humanity's only defense against the unknown dangers of an alien world. But the danger approaching now was beyond anything the colonists had imagined. They came from the sky like falling stars, their ships sleek and angular, moving with a grace that spoke of technology centuries beyond human comprehension. The vessels were beautiful in their alien design, composed of what appeared to be living metal that shifted and flowed as they descended through the atmosphere. Elena watched as the largest ship settled onto the grassland beyond the colony walls, its landing creating barely a whisper of disturbance. From her privileged position as an observer of recorded history, she could see what the colonists could not: the incredible restraint being shown by the arriving aliens. The ship that had just landed could have obliterated the entire colony without effort. The energy readings displayed in the hologram's data overlay showed weapons capable of cracking continental plates, shields that could deflect nuclear weapons as easily as batting away insects. Yet they had approached slowly, openly, with their weapons powered down, and their intentions broadcast in mathematical sequences that even primitive human computers could decode as peaceful. The airlock of the alien vessel opened with a soft hiss, and Elena got her first look at humanity's benefactors. The Corvani were magnificent. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, they possessed an elegant reptilian grace that spoke of both intelligence and physical power. Their scales shimmered with colors that shifted like oil on water, and their large, multifaceted eyes seemed to take in everything simultaneously. But it was their bearing that impressed Elena most. They moved with the confidence of a species that had conquered not just space, but themselves. The lead Corvani wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor covered in symbols that pulsed with soft bioluminescence. As Elena watched, her enhanced historical records provided translation overlays that hadn't been available to the original colonists. "I am first speaker Thaindok of the Corvani hegemony," the alien announced, its voice carrying through translation devices that converted the musical tones of its language into accented but understandable English. "We have observed your settlement and come to determine your intentions in our territorial space." Colonial Administrator Chun approached the perimeter wall, her security team flanking her with weapons that Elena knew were laughably primitive compared to Corvani technology. Chen's courage in that moment had become legendary among historians. She was an administrator facing down an alien civilization with nothing but determination and hope. "I am Sarah Chun, elected representative of the human colony on this world. We came here seeking only to survive and build a peaceful home. We had no knowledge that this space belonged to another people." Elena paused the playback, studying the faces of both species in that crucial moment. Chen's expression showed fear, yes, but also a dignity that refused to bend even in the face of overwhelming power. The Corvani first speaker's alien features were harder to read, but Elena had studied their expressions for years. She could see calculation there, and something that might have been curiosity. "Computer, resume playback with cultural analysis overlay." The scene continued, and Elena watched as first speaker Thaindok tilted his massive head in what Corvani body language experts would later identify as a gesture of consideration. The cultural analysis overlay highlighted micro-expressions and posture changes that revealed the alien leader's internal debate. "Your species is young," Thaindok observed, his words carrying harmonics that the translation software rendered as mild surprise. "We have observed your homeworld from afar. You have achieved interstellar travel despite being barely beyond your aggressive adolescent phase. This is unusual. We are trying to be better than we were," Chun replied, her voice steady despite the situation. "We came to this world to learn, to grow, to become worthy of the gift of intelligence we've been given." Elena felt a chill as she watched the first speaker's reaction. The cultural analysis indicated that something in Chen's words had triggered a significant response in the alien leader. Later studies would reveal that the Corvani had been watching dozens of younger species, most of whom had destroyed themselves before achieving true spaceflight. Humanity's survival and apparent desire for self-improvement had marked them as unusual. "Your settlement lies within the boundaries of our protected systems," Thaindok continued. "By the laws of the hegemony, you are trespassers who may be removed at our discretion." The colonists tensed, and Elena could see security personnel preparing for a battle they knew they couldn't win. But she also noticed something else in the recording. Children peering from behind buildings, their faces filled not with fear but with wonder at seeing beings from beyond the stars. However, the first speaker continued, and Elena leaned forward despite knowing how this scene ended. "We have observed your behavior on this world. You have not strip mined resources or poisoned waters. You have studied the local ecosystem before building. You have shown restraint and wisdom beyond your years. The pause that followed would later be calculated as lasting exactly 14 seconds. But Elena knew that those 14 seconds had changed the course of galactic history. The Corvani hegemony grants you permission to remain on this world, under our protection, as guests in our space. In time, perhaps your species will prove worthy of true partnership among the stars. Elena stopped the playback again, her throat tight with emotion despite having read this account dozens of times. The moment of pardon, humanity's first and most important diplomatic victory, had been recorded from multiple angles by both human and Corvani observers. But seeing it play out in full sensory detail never failed to move her. The colonists' reaction had been a mixture of relief, gratitude, and awe. Chun had actually wept as she accepted the Corvani protection, promising that humanity would prove worthy of their trust. The children had broken free from their parents and run to the colony walls, pressing their faces against the barriers to get a better look at the aliens who had spared their home. Computer, display casualty projections if the Corvani had chosen to remove the colony. The holographic display filled with tactical analyses that made Elena's stomach clench. The Corvani fleet that day had consisted of 17 vessels, each one capable of sterilizing the planet's surface in under an hour. The human colony had possessed exactly 0 weapons capable of threatening even a single Corvani ship. The protection offered by their crude walls would have lasted approximately 37 seconds against Corvani energy weapons. The pardon hadn't been mercy born of weakness. It had been mercy born of choice. The Corvani could have eliminated the human settlement as easily as a person might step on an ant. But they had chosen instead to nurture potential they saw in humanity's behavior. Computer advanced to the departure ceremony. The scene shifted to show the same landing site 3 days later. The Corvani delegation was preparing to depart, but not before establishing formal diplomatic protocols and providing the colonists with communication technology that would allow them to contact Corvani authorities if needed. Elena watched as first speaker Thaindok approached Administrator Chun one final time. The alien leader carried a small crystalline device that pulsed with internal light. "This is a memory crystal," Thaindok explained. "It contains our records of this encounter and the formal recognition of your colony's status under our protection. Guard it well, and remember that mercy given freely creates bonds stronger than conquest." Chun accepted the crystal with hands that shook slightly. "We will remember," she promised. "We will never forget what you've done for us today." The first speaker's next words had become the foundation of human diplomatic philosophy. Remembrance is good, but do not let gratitude become a chain. Prove worthy of this gift by becoming something greater than you are today. Elena watched the Corvani ships lift off with the same graceful silence they had shown in landing. The colonists stood at their walls, waving goodbye to beings who had saved their lives with a single decision. In her enhanced historical perspective, Elena could see the trajectory of everything that followed. The careful advancement of human civilization under Corvani guidance, the gradual expansion to other worlds, the development of technologies that would eventually challenge the dominance of their protectors. She thought about the memory crystal that Chun had received that day. It now rested in a place of honor in the memorial complex on New Earth, surrounded by monuments to the Corvani protection that had allowed humanity to survive its early years among the stars. But Elena knew something that the tourists visiting those monuments did not. She knew about the other crystals, hundreds of them now, that contained records of every interaction between humanity and the Corvani over the past 800 years. She knew about the careful documentation of Corvani technology, culture, and military capabilities that had been gathered through centuries of grateful cooperation. Most importantly, she knew about the project that gratitude had eventually spawned, the project that had consumed the resources of 17 human worlds and the genius of humanity's greatest minds. The project that was nearing completion in the hidden shipyards beyond the galactic rim. Computer, in playback, and secure files. The hologram faded, leaving Elena alone in the archive chamber with the weight of history and the knowledge of what was coming. She thought about first speaker Thaindok's words about gratitude not becoming a chain, and She wondered if the ancient alien had understood the true nature of human determination. Humanity had indeed become something greater than they were on that day 8 centuries ago. They had grown, learned, and developed under Corvani protection until they no longer needed that protection. But they had also remembered, with a precision and dedication that would have amazed their benefactors. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when humanity decided to show its gratitude in the most human way possible, by doing something that had never been done before, something that would immortalize the Corvani name in ways no species had ever been honored in the history of the galaxy. Elena smiled as she left the archive chamber, her footsteps echoing through corridors that held the memories of humanity's journey from grateful refugees to something far more complex. The Corvani had pardoned humanity once, 800 years ago. Tomorrow, humanity would begin returning that favor in the most spectacular way imaginable. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the observation deck of the UHS Remembrance, watching the controlled chaos of the largest construction project in human history. Outside the reinforced viewports, the shipyard stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, a maze of assembly platforms, resource processors, and protective barriers that had transformed an empty region of space into humanity's most ambitious undertaking. The ship taking shape at the center of all this activity defied easy description. At over 50 kilometers in length, it dwarfed even the largest Corvani dreadnoughts by an order of magnitude. But size was only the beginning of what made this vessel unprecedented. Every component had been designed not for war, but for something far more complex and meaningful. Admiral, we're receiving the final status report from Section Chief Nakamura, announced Lieutenant Commander Sarah Reyes, her voice carrying across the observation deck's communication array. Webb nodded, keeping his eyes fixed on the massive construction outside. Put her through. The holographic display activated, showing the face of Dr. Yuki Nakamura, the brilliant engineer who had overseen the cultural integration systems for the past 6 years. Behind her, Webb could see the interior of what would become the ship's primary memorial chamber, where teams of artisans worked alongside the most advanced fabrication technology humanity had ever developed. Admiral, I'm pleased to report that the Cultural Preservation Matrix is now fully operational, Nakamura said, her voice filled with exhaustion and pride. We've successfully integrated 8,000 years of Corvani historical records, artistic works, philosophical texts, and cultural artifacts into a preservation system that will maintain molecular-level integrity for over 10 million years. Webb felt a familiar surge of awe at the scope of what they had accomplished. The ship being constructed wasn't just a vessel. It was a library, a museum, a monument, and a gift all combined into something that had no precedent in galactic history. What about the biological preservation systems? Webb asked. Complete, Nakamura replied, her image flickering slightly as massive construction equipment passed between the communication arrays. We've collected genetic samples and full biological data for every species within Corvani space, including the Corvani themselves. The biostasis chambers can maintain living specimens indefinitely, and the genetic reconstruction protocols could rebuild entire ecosystems if necessary. Webb turned away from the viewport, his mind processing the implications of what they had created. The project, officially designated as the Corvani Preservation Initiative, had consumed the resources of humanity's 17 core worlds for the past 23 years. Every human colony had contributed materials, technology, and expertise to ensure its completion. But the true scope of the project went beyond preservation. Hidden within the vessel's massive superstructure were archives containing every detail of human civilization as well. Art, music, literature, scientific discoveries, and historical records that spanned humanity's entire journey from their primitive beginnings to their current position as one of the galaxy's younger, but increasingly influential powers. Admiral, came another voice from the ship's communication system. This is Fleet Commander Harrison calling from the escort formation. We're receiving priority signals from the Corvani diplomatic fleet. They're requesting permission to approach the construction site. Webb's jaw tightened. The Corvani had been aware of the project from its beginning. Humanity had made no attempt to hide the massive construction effort. But they had consistently refused to discuss its purpose, claiming it was an internal human matter that would be revealed at the appropriate time. The Corvani, with their characteristic patience, had respected humanity's wishes while undoubtedly conducting their own analysis of the project. Grant them approach clearance, but maintain security protocols, Webb ordered. And signal the diplomatic corps. It's time for Ambassador Torres to join us. As the Corvani ships approached, Webb reflected on the delicate balance humanity had maintained over the past 8 centuries. The relationship between the two species had evolved from protection and gratitude to something more complex, a partnership that had benefited both civilizations while gradually shifting the balance of power in humanity's favor. The Corvani had shared their technology freely, guided human development, and protected humanity's colonies from the various threats that stalked young civilizations among the stars. In return, humans had provided fresh perspectives on ancient problems, innovative solutions to technological challenges, and a creative energy that had revitalized Corvani society in unexpected ways. But Webb knew what the Corvani did not yet understand, that human gratitude operated on a scale that their alien psychology had never fully comprehended. Where most species would have eventually taken their benefactors' gifts for granted, humanity had built an entire cultural foundation around remembering and honoring the day they had been pardoned. Admiral, Ambassador Torres has arrived on deck, Lieutenant Commander Reyes announced. Webb turned to see Maria Torres approaching, her diplomatic uniform immaculate despite the long journey from the inner systems. Torres had served as humanity's primary liaison to the Corvani hegemony for over 15 years, and her understanding of their complex culture had been instrumental in maintaining peaceful relations while humanity pursued its mysterious project. Maria, are you ready for this? Webb asked as the ambassador joined him at the observation window. Torres smiled, her expression mixing anticipation with concern. As ready as anyone can be for what we're about to attempt, she replied. The Corvani delegation includes first speaker Thaindok himself. He's over 900 years old now, but still sharp as ever. He remembers the original colony incident. Webb's eyebrows rose in surprise. Thaindok was practically a legend among humans, the alien leader who had made the decision that saved humanity's first interstellar colony. That he had come personally suggested that the Corvani understood this moment held significant importance, even if they couldn't yet comprehend its true scope. Incoming transmission from the Corvani flagship, Reyes announced. Put it through, Webb ordered. The holographic display activated, showing the familiar form of first speaker Thaindok. Age had added subtle patterns to his scales and a deeper wisdom to his multifaceted eyes, but his presence remained as commanding as ever. Behind him, Webb could see the elegant interior of a Corvani command vessel, with its flowing organic designs and bioluminescent control systems. Admiral Webb, Ambassador Torres, Thaindok's translated voice carried its familiar musical harmonics. We have observed your construction project with great interest. The scale and complexity suggest significance beyond mere shipbuilding. May we request clarification of your intentions? Webb exchanged a glance with Torres, who nodded slightly. They had rehearsed this moment for months, but the weight of actually having the conversation felt surreal. First speaker, we would be honored to explain our project in person, Webb replied. Would you accept an invitation to come aboard the Remembrance and see what we have built? There was a pause that Webb recognized as Thaindok consulting with his advisors through Corvani neural link technology. The first speaker's expression remained neutral, but Webb caught subtle signs that might indicate curiosity. We accept your invitation, Admiral. We will bring a cultural analysis team to better understand your creation. As the communication ended, Webb felt the weight of 8 centuries of human history pressing down on him. Everything that had happened since that day on Kepler 442b had led to this moment. Humanity's graduation from protected species to something unprecedented in galactic history. All sections, prepare for Corvani arrival, Webb announced shipwide. This is not a drill. Today we show our guests what human gratitude really means. An hour later, Webb and Torres waited in the ship's primary docking bay as the Corvani shuttle approached. The bay itself was a marvel of human engineering, large enough to accommodate vessels the size of small buildings while maintaining perfect atmospheric and environmental controls. But the real spectacle lay beyond the bay, in the corridors and chambers that stretched throughout the massive ship. The Corvani shuttle landed with characteristic grace, its living metal hull adapting to the docking clamps with fluid precision. As the airlock cycled, Webb found himself holding his breath despite years of diplomatic experience. First Speaker Thane Doak emerged first, his imposing form moving with the careful dignity of advanced age and high station. Behind him came a delegation of Corvani scientists, cultural experts, and military advisors, the best minds their civilization could offer for understanding what humanity had created. First Speaker, welcome aboard the UHS Remembrance, Webb said, offering the formal bow that Corvani culture appreciated. We are honored by your presence. Thane Doak's large eyes took in the docking bay's details with obvious interest. Admiral, this vessel exceeds our largest constructions by considerable margins. The energy signatures suggest technology beyond our current understanding of human capabilities. We've learned much in 800 years, Torres interjected diplomatically. But we've never forgotten our teachers or the debt we owe. Debt? Thane Doak's head tilted in the gesture Webb recognized as confusion. Young friend, the protection offered to your species was given freely. No debt was created. Webb felt a smile tugging at his lips. First Speaker, would you permit us to show you something? I think it might help clarify our perspective on the matter. The tour that followed would later be described by Corvani historians as the most overwhelming cultural experience in their species' recorded history. Webb led the delegation through corridors lined with artistic representations of every major Corvani achievement, rendered in materials and techniques that showcased both species' capabilities. Holographic displays showed the development of Corvani civilization from their earliest recorded history to their current status as one of the galaxy's great powers. But the displays were more than simple recreations. Human artists had worked with Corvani cultural experts to create interpretive works that showed familiar history through fresh perspectives, highlighting aspects of their heritage that even the Corvani themselves had forgotten or overlooked. This recreation of the First Dynasty's architectural principles, observed one of the Corvani cultural experts, studying a holographic model that rotated slowly in its display case. The mathematical harmonies are preserved perfectly, but the presentation reveals structural relationships we had not previously considered. They passed through chambers dedicated to Corvani philosophy, their scientific achievements, their artistic traditions, and their complex social structures. Each room represented years of research and careful curation, designed not just to preserve Corvani culture, but to honor it in ways that would resonate across millions of years. Admiral, Thane Doak said as they paused before a massive sculpture that represented the moment of first contact between their species. The scope of this preservation effort suggests resources equivalent to constructing a battle fleet. For what purpose have your people undertaken such effort? Webb looked at Torres, who nodded encouragingly. The moment they had been building toward was finally at hand. First Speaker, 800 years ago, your people made a choice. You could have eliminated a primitive human colony that had unknowingly trespassed in your space. Instead, you showed mercy to a species that had nothing to offer in return. That single decision saved not just 3,000 human lives, but the entire future of our species. Thane Doak's expression remained neutral, but Webb could see the alien leader processing the implications of his words. Since that day, humanity has grown and prospered under your protection. We have learned from your wisdom, benefited from your technology, and been shaped by your example. But we have also never forgotten that everything we have become exists because of your choice to show mercy to beings who could not defend themselves. Webb gestured to the displays surrounding them. This ship, First Speaker, is humanity's attempt to return a gift we can never truly repay. We have preserved your entire civilization, your history, your culture, your genetic heritage, your achievements, and your wisdom in systems designed to last longer than stars. The silence that followed was profound. The Corvani delegation exchanged glances and subtle communications that Webb couldn't interpret, but their body language suggested deep emotional impact. But, Admiral, Thaindok finally said, "Preservation suggests protection against loss. Our civilization is not threatened. We remain strong and vital." Torres stepped forward, her diplomatic training helping her find the right words for the delicate explanation they needed to provide. First speaker, no civilization lasts forever. Stars die, galaxies collide. The universe itself will eventually reach heat death. But this ship is designed to survive all of those catastrophes. No matter what happens to the Corvani hegemony, whether in 1,000 years or 100 million, your people's achievements will be remembered and honored. Webb watched as understanding dawned in Thaindok's ancient eyes. You are creating immortality for our culture. We are ensuring that the name of the first species to show mercy to humanity will never be forgotten, Webb corrected gently. Long after both our civilizations have passed into history, this ship will carry the story of the Corvani through the cosmos, a testament to the power of mercy and the importance of choosing compassion over convenience. The first speaker was quiet for a long moment, his multifaceted eyes studying the preservation displays with new understanding. When he spoke again, his voice carried harmonics that the translation system rendered as deep emotion. Your species continues to surprise us. We expected gratitude, perhaps even partnership as you matured. We did not expect this. Webb nodded solemnly. First speaker, this is what happens when you show mercy to humans. We remember, we honor, and we repay our debts in ways that echo through eternity. As they continued through the ship's vast interior, Webb knew that word of humanity's monument would spread throughout Corvani society and beyond. The younger races would learn of a species so dedicated to honoring its benefactors that it had built a monument designed to outlast time itself. But Webb also knew that the ship represented more than gratitude. It was humanity's declaration that they had learned the most important lesson their protectors had to teach, that true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to preserve and protect. The galaxy was about to discover what human gratitude looked like when backed by human determination and technology. The Corvani had pardoned them once, 800 years ago. Now humanity was about to ensure that pardon would be remembered forever. The Grand Assembly of the Corvani hegemony had not seen such attendance in over 3 centuries. Representatives from every major house, every client species, and every significant faction within their sprawling civilization had gathered in the crystalline halls of the hegemony capital to discuss the implications of humanity's revelation. First speaker Thaindok stood before the assembled masses, his ancient form commanding attention despite the emotional weight of what he was about to share. Behind him, holographic displays showed detailed scans of the human vessel that defied every assumption their civilization had held about gratitude, memory, and the nature of interspecies relationships. Fellow speakers, honored guests, children of the hegemony, Thaindok began, his voice carrying through the chamber's acoustic enhancement systems with perfect clarity. 3 days ago, I witnessed something that challenges our understanding of the species we have protected for the past 8 centuries. The chamber fell silent. When the eldest and most respected first speaker called for attention, even the most ambitious political minds listened carefully. The humans have built something unprecedented in galactic history. They have created not merely a monument, but a guarantee of immortality for our civilization. Every aspect of our culture, our achievements, our genetic heritage, and our philosophical contributions has been preserved in systems designed to outlast the universe itself. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Speaker Veltar of the military house rose from her designated position, her scales showing the deep blue patterns that indicated concern. First speaker, while we appreciate human gratitude, surely you are not suggesting that their preservation effort represents a significant development? We are not a dying civilization in need of such charity. Thaindok's expression carried the patient wisdom of someone who had observed the rise and fall of multiple civilizations. Speaker Veltar, your concern is understandable but misplaced. This is not charity offered to the weak. This is recognition of worth offered by a species that has grown beyond our expectations. He gestured to the displays, which showed detailed technical analyses of the human construction. The technology required for this preservation vessel exceeds our own capabilities in several key areas. The humans have not merely learned from our teachings. They have advanced beyond them. Another speaker rose, Zekmoth of the Science Houses, his scales showing the neutral gray that indicated analytical focus. First speaker, our intelligence services have monitored human technological development. While they have shown impressive progress, suggesting they have surpassed hegemony science seems unlikely. Then, explain these readings, Thane-Dok replied, his voice carrying a challenge that made the assembly straighten in attention. The holographic displays shifted to show energy signatures that made several speakers inhale sharply. The readings indicated power generation capacity that dwarfed even the hegemony's largest installations, manufacturing precision at the molecular level, and defensive systems that appeared to operate on principles the Corvani had only theorized about. The humans have spent 8 centuries not merely learning from us, but building upon our knowledge to create something we had not imagined possible, Thane-Dok continued. This preservation vessel is not just a monument to our civilization. It is proof that humanity has graduated from protected species to technological peer. The implications of this revelation rippled through the assembly like a shockwave. For 800 years, the Corvani had taken pride in their role as humanity's protectors and guides. The idea that their former charges had not merely equaled their technology, but surpassed it in crucial areas challenged fundamental assumptions about the relationship between the two species. Speaker Quindal of the Diplomatic Corps rose, her scales showing the complex patterns that indicated deep consideration. First speaker, if humanity has achieved technological parity or superiority, what does this mean for the protection agreements that have governed our relationship? Thane-Dok had been expecting this question. It means, honored speaker, that humanity no longer requires our protection. It also means that we must reconsider our understanding of what our mercy 8 centuries ago actually accomplished. The chamber erupted in discussion as hundreds of speakers began debating the implications simultaneously. Thane-Dok waited patiently for the initial shock to subside before continuing. I have given this matter considerable thought during my return journey, he said, his voice cutting through the discussions and restoring order. The humans have not simply preserved our civilization, they have elevated it. Their perspective on our achievements, their interpretation of our culture, and their presentation of our history reveals aspects of our own legacy that we had not fully appreciated. He gestured to a new display that showed some of the artistic interpretations the humans had created. They see our first contact protocols not just as military procedures, but as philosophical statements about the nature of civilization itself. They view our technological achievements not merely as tools, but as expressions of our commitment to harmony between intelligence and environment. Speaker Thane-Dok paused, allowing the assembly to absorb these concepts. The humans have taken our legacy and made it greater than we had made it ourselves. They have found meaning in our actions that we had not realized we were creating. From the section reserved for client species representatives, Ambassador Kaith of the Meridian Coalition stood. As one of the species that had benefited from Corvani protection, her perspective carried special weight. First speaker, the implications extend beyond the relationship between Corvani and humanity. If humans have achieved this level of capability through gratitude and dedication to their benefactors, what does this suggest about the proper relationship between protector and protected species? Thane-Dok's expression showed approval at the insight. Ambassador Kaith raises the central question we must address. Humanity has demonstrated that proper guidance and protection can produce results that exceed the protector's own capabilities. They have become not merely our equals, but our inheritors. The weight of this statement settled over the assembly. In Corvani culture, the concept of inheritance implied not replacement, but the passing of responsibility to those capable of carrying it forward. To suggest that humanity had become their inheritors was to acknowledge a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. However, Thane-Dok continued, we must also consider the nature of this inheritance. The humans have not sought to replace us or diminish our role. Instead, they have chosen to immortalize our contribution to their development. They have made our mercy into their foundation myth, our wisdom into their guiding principles, and our protection into their motivation for greatness. Speaker Veltar rose again, her scales now showing the deep purple that indicated strategic thinking. First speaker, what are the practical implications of this development? How should the hegemony respond to humanity's gesture? Thaindok had been preparing for this question since his first glimpse of the human vessel. The humans have presented us with a gift that cannot be reciprocated in kind. One cannot build a monument to preserve the culture of a species that has already proven its permanence. Instead, we must acknowledge what they have accomplished and adjust our relationship accordingly. The chamber waited in expectant silence. I propose that the hegemony formally graduate humanity from protected status to full partnership. More than that, I propose that we acknowledge their achievement by inviting them to join us as co-protectors of younger species who may benefit from guidance. The reaction was immediate and intense. Voices rose throughout the assembly as representatives debated the unprecedented nature of the proposal. Never in Corvani history had a protected species been invited to share in the responsibility of protection itself. The humans have proven that our methods work, Thaindok said, his voice rising above the discussions. They have grown from primitive refugees to technological innovators capable of creating wonders we had not imagined. If we can replicate this success with other species, we can create a galaxy where civilization itself becomes stronger with each generation. From the philosophical section came the voice of Elder Shindok, whose advanced age granted her special authority in matters of cultural significance. First speaker, the humans have done more than achieve technological advancement. They have demonstrated the ultimate success of our core principles. Their gratitude has become generosity. Their learning has become teaching, and their protection has become the foundation for protecting others. Thaindok nodded respectfully to the elder. Indeed, honored Shindok, the humans have become the living proof that mercy creates stronger bonds than conquest, that wisdom shared multiplies rather than diminishes, and that protection offered freely produces allies rather than subjects. As the debate continued throughout the assembly, Thaindok reflected on the remarkable transformation he had witnessed. 800 years ago, he had made a decision to spare a primitive human colony based on nothing more than their apparent desire to learn and grow. That single choice had produced a species capable of creating monuments to gratitude that would outlast stars. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect was not what humanity had built, but how they had chosen to build it. They could have used their advanced technology to challenge Corvani supremacy, to establish their own empire, or to seek revenge for centuries of subordinate status. Instead, they had chosen to honor their benefactors in the most permanent way possible. Honored speakers, Thaindok called, bringing the assembly back to order. We are faced with a choice similar to the one I faced 8 centuries ago. We can cling to familiar patterns and maintain humanity in a subordinate role, or we can recognize what they have become and welcome them as partners in the great work of fostering civilization throughout the galaxy. He paused, letting the parallel settle in. 800 years ago, mercy created the foundation for humanity's greatness. Today, wisdom demands that we acknowledge what that foundation has produced. Speaker Quindal stood again, her diplomatic training evident in her measured words. First speaker, assuming the assembly approves your proposal, how do we present this change to the broader galactic community? The other major powers have grown accustomed to humanity's status as a Corvani protectorate. Thaindok's expression showed something that might have been amusement. Honored speaker, I suspect the other powers will adjust their perceptions quickly once they learn of humanity's preservation vessel. Word is already spreading through diplomatic channels. By the time we formalize humanity's new status, the galaxy will already be reconsidering their assumptions. The truth of this was already becoming evident. Reports were flooding in from Corvani diplomatic posts throughout the galaxy as other species learned of humanity's unprecedented achievement. The construction of a monument designed to preserve an entire civilization had shocked even the oldest and most advanced powers into recognition of humanity's true capabilities. But, perhaps most importantly, Thaindok concluded, we must consider what humanity has taught us about the nature of gratitude itself. They have shown that true appreciation does not simply acknowledge what was given. It multiplies the value of that gift through dedicated action. They have taken our mercy and made it into something greater than we had imagined possible. As the assembly moved toward formal debate and eventual voting, Thaindok felt a deep satisfaction that went beyond political achievement. He had lived to see the full flowering of a decision made centuries ago, watched a species grow from grateful refugees to partners capable of preserving civilization itself. The humans had indeed become something greater than they were when he first pardoned them. But, in doing so, they had also revealed the true greatness that had always existed within the Corvani decision to show mercy to those who could not defend themselves. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when gratitude met capability and determination met technology. The Corvani had created something unprecedented by showing mercy to humanity. Now humanity would show the universe what such mercy could create when nurtured with dedication, honored with achievement, and preserved for eternity. The Galactic Council Chamber on Nexus Prime had never hosted such a diverse assembly of species. Representatives from every major civilization, minor power, and emerging species had gathered to witness what historians would later call the Paradigm Declaration, the moment when the fundamental assumptions about power, protection, and partnership in the galaxy were formally redefined. Chancellor Vexthara of the Hegemonian Collective, one of the galaxy's oldest and most conservative powers, rose from her position at the high table. Her crystalline form caught the chamber's bioluminescent lighting in patterns that spoke of deep unease. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice transmitted through harmonic resonators that allowed all species to understand her words. "We convene this emergency session to address developments that challenge established galactic order. The Corvani hegemony's proposal to elevate humanity from protected status to co-protector partnership represents an unprecedented disruption of established hierarchies." Murmurs of agreement and dissent rippled through the diverse assembly. Near the front of the chamber, the human delegation sat quietly, their presence itself a statement about how much had changed since the last major galactic realignment 3 centuries prior. Ambassador Maria Torres represented humanity at the high table, her position between the Corvani first speaker and the Chancellor symbolic of the new dynamics emerging in galactic politics. Behind her, Admiral Webb and Dr. Vasquez served as technical advisors, ready to answer questions about humanity's preservation vessel that had shocked the galaxy into this emergency session. The preservation vessel constructed by humanity exceeds the scope of any previous monument in galactic history, Chancellor Vexthara continued. While we acknowledge the impressive nature of this achievement, the collective questions whether such construction represents sufficient grounds for elevating a recently emerged species to partnership status with one of our ancient powers. First speaker Thaindok rose slowly, his aged form commanding instant respect from the assembly. "Chancellor, with respect, your concern misunderstands the nature of what humanity has accomplished. This is not merely impressive construction. It is proof of technological advancement that equals or exceeds our own capabilities." The chamber erupted in surprised discussion. For an established power to publicly acknowledge technological parity with a younger species violated every traditional assumption about galactic development patterns. Furthermore, Thaindok continued, his voice cutting through the noise, humanity's achievement demonstrates successful completion of the most comprehensive cultural preservation project ever attempted. They have not simply built a monument. They have created guaranteed immortality for civilization itself. Ambassador Krellnox of the Void Walkers, a species known for their advanced technology and isolation, activated his translation matrix. First speaker, the Void Walkers have analyzed transmitted specifications of the human vessel. While impressive, the technology appears to be extrapolation of known principles rather than fundamental breakthrough. Admiral Webb stood, requesting permission to respond. At Thaindok's gesture, he addressed the assembly directly. "Ambassador Krellnox, with respect, our preservation systems utilize principles that represent fundamental advances beyond current galactic standards. The temporal stabilization matrices alone required breakthroughs in dimensional physics that have applications far beyond preservation technology." Webb gestured to the holographic display that materialized above the chamber floor, showing technical specifications that had been declassified specifically for this presentation. Our biostasis systems can maintain living tissue indefinitely without degradation. Our quantum storage matrices can preserve information with perfect fidelity for time frames exceeding the projected lifespan of the universe. Most importantly, our cultural interpretation algorithms can maintain not just data, but meaning across temporal scales that render traditional preservation methods obsolete. The technical specifications caused visible reactions throughout the chamber as translation systems worked to convey concepts that strained the limits of several species' understanding. Ambassador Krell-Knox's biorhythmic patterns showed what appeared to be surprise, while other delegates engaged in rapid consultation with their own technical advisors. Chancellor Vexthera's crystalline form shifted through colors that indicated skepticism. Admiral Webb, assuming these capabilities are verified, the question remains whether technological achievement alone justifies elevation to protector status. The responsibilities of guiding younger species require wisdom, patience, and cultural sensitivity that typically develop over millennia. Ambassador Torres rose to respond, her diplomatic training evident in her measured approach. Chancellor, humanity's approach to preservation demonstrates exactly the qualities you mention. We spent 8 centuries studying Corvani culture not to copy or replace it, but to understand and honor its deeper meanings. Our preservation vessel includes interpretive frameworks that reveal aspects of Corvani achievement that even they had not fully recognized. She gestured to the display, which showed examples of the cultural analysis systems built into the human monument. We have created not just a museum, but a living testament to the value of mercy, wisdom, and patience. Every system aboard our vessel was designed to teach future civilizations about the importance of choosing protection over conquest, guidance over domination. From the section reserved for younger species, Ambassador Kelvash of the Tenari Federation stood to speak. Honored delegates, the Tenari have observed humanity's development with great interest. As a species still developing under Corvani protection, we find their example highly instructive. The young ambassador's words carried special weight, representing the perspective of species that could most directly benefit from humanity's potential as co-protectors. Humanity has demonstrated that proper guidance can produce results exceeding the guide's own capabilities. They have taken Corvani wisdom and expanded it into principles that could benefit species throughout the galaxy. If they were to share protector responsibilities, younger civilizations would benefit from fresh perspectives on ancient challenges. Elder Shindok of the Corvani Philosophical Council requested permission to address the assembly. Her advanced age and reputation for deep wisdom granted her immediate attention. Honored delegates, you debate whether humanity deserves elevation to partnership status. This question misses the fundamental transformation we are witnessing. Humanity has not simply achieved technological advancement. They have demonstrated successful evolutionary progression from protected to protector. Her words carried the authority of someone who had observed galactic development for over a millennium. In our long history, we have protected dozens of species as they developed interstellar capabilities. Most eventually reached technological independence and moved beyond our influence. Some achieved significant advancement and became valued allies. But none has ever chosen to immortalize their protector's culture as their primary response to achieving independence. The elders' observation created profound silence as delegates considered the unprecedented nature of humanity's choice. Humanity has proven that protection properly offered creates not subjects or competitors, but inheritors who carry forward the principles that made protection possible. They have become living proof that our methods work, and they have done so by choosing honor over ambition, preservation over conquest. From the military alliance section, General Thrackmore of the warrior clans stood to voice a different perspective. Elder, while we respect humanity's achievement, the galaxy has established hierarchies based on proven capability over extensive time frames. Disrupting these patterns based on a single impressive construction project could destabilize existing alliances and power structures. Admiral Webb requested permission to respond to the military concerns. General Thrackmore, our preservation vessel is not a single project, but the culmination of technological development that spans centuries. However, we understand concerns about stability. The admiral's tone shifted to formal diplomatic protocol. Humanity has no interest in disrupting existing alliances or challenging established powers. Our goal is to apply the lessons we learned under Corvani guidance to help other species achieve similar success. We seek partnership and protection, not dominance through conquest. Chancellor Vexthera's form shifted to colors indicating consideration. Admiral, how can humanity guarantee that elevation to protector status would not eventually lead to conflict with existing powers as your technological capabilities continue advancing? The question struck at the heart of galactic politics, the eternal concern that rising powers would eventually challenge established hierarchies through force rather than cooperation. Ambassador Torres stood again, her response carrying the weight of 8 centuries of human diplomatic philosophy. Chancellor, our entire culture is built on gratitude for protection freely offered. We understand that true strength comes not from the ability to dominate, but from the choice to nurture. Our preservation vessel exists as permanent testimony to these principles. She gestured to include the Corvani delegation in her statement. We seek to become worthy inheritors of Corvani wisdom, not replacements for Corvani authority. Partnership means shared responsibility, not competitive hierarchy. First Speaker Thaindok rose to add his support. The Chancellor's concerns are valid based on historical precedent, but humanity has demonstrated behavior patterns that differ from typical power emergence. They have had the technological capability to challenge our authority for decades, yet they chose instead to honor our contribution to their development. The ancient Corvani leader paused for emphasis. Trust must eventually be backed by action rather than words. Humanity's actions speak to principles that align with the responsibilities of protection rather than the ambitions of conquest. As debate continued throughout the chamber, delegates began recognizing that they were witnessing a fundamental moment in galactic history. The traditional pattern of young species either remaining subordinate to their protectors or eventually challenging them for independence had been broken by humanity's choice to honor their benefactors while advancing beyond them. Ambassador Kelvash of the Tenari Federation requested permission to speak again. Honored delegates, perhaps we should consider the practical benefits of humanity's proposal rather than focusing solely on theoretical risks. The young ambassador's pragmatic approach drew attention from delegates who had grown weary of abstract philosophical debate. The Tenari faced challenges in technological development that might benefit from fresh perspectives. Humanity's rapid advancement suggests approaches to learning and innovation that could accelerate development for other protected species. If they were willing to share these methods under proper guidance, the benefits to younger civilizations could be substantial. This practical perspective began shifting the debate from theoretical concerns to concrete possibilities. Several delegates from younger species expressed interest in learning from humanity's development model, while representatives of established powers began considering the implications of having active partners rather than passive protectorates. Chancellor Vexthera called for a temporary recess to allow delegations time for internal consultation. As the chamber emptied for private discussions, the human delegation found themselves surrounded by representatives from species across the developmental spectrum. The questions came rapidly. How had humanity achieved such rapid technological advancement? What role had gratitude played in maintaining focus on beneficial development? Could their preservation techniques be adapted for other cultural heritage projects? Would they be willing to share their educational methodologies with younger species? Admiral Webb found himself explaining technical specifications to the Void Walker delegation, while Dr. Vasquez discussed cultural preservation theory with philosophical representatives from multiple species. Ambassador Torres fielded questions about diplomatic protocols that had maintained peaceful relations during humanity's transition from protected to protector status. But the most significant conversations occurred between First Speaker Thaindok and Elder Shundok as they met with representatives of other protective powers. The implications of successful graduation from protected to protector status had profound ramifications for how older civilizations approach their relationships with developing species. If humanity's model could be replicated, it suggested possibilities for creating networks of cooperative protectors rather than competitive hierarchies. The galaxy could evolve toward collaborative development rather than the traditional pattern of eventual conflict between protector and protected. When the session resumed, Chancellor Vexthera announced that preliminary consultations had revealed broad interest in exploring humanity's proposal under carefully structured conditions. The collective proposes a trial partnership period during which humanity would participate in protection responsibilities under Corvani oversight, with formal evaluation after standard galactic cycle. This would allow practical assessment of their capabilities while maintaining existing stability. The proposal represented a compromise that acknowledged humanity's achievements while addressing concerns about disrupting established patterns. More importantly, it created a pathway for other species to potentially follow humanity's example in the future. As debates continued into the evening cycle, it became clear that the galaxy was witnessing the emergence of a new model for interspecies development. Humanity had not simply built a monument. They had demonstrated a path from protection to partnership that could reshape how civilizations evolved together among the stars. The Corvani had pardoned them once, 8 centuries ago, creating the foundation for everything that followed. Now humanity was offering the galaxy a chance to discover what mercy and wisdom could accomplish when supported by gratitude, enhanced by technology, and dedicated to preserving the best achievements of all civilizations for eternity. 10 years had passed since the Paradigm Declaration, and the galaxy had transformed in ways that surprised even the most optimistic projections. The Human Corvani Protection Partnership had become the model that dozens of species were now attempting to replicate, creating a web of cooperative relationships that was reshaping interstellar civilization. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood once again in the archives beneath New Geneva, but this time she was not alone. Around her, representatives from 17 different species worked with human archivists to document and preserve the cultural heritage of civilizations throughout the galaxy. The success of the Corvani Preservation Initiative had inspired what historians were already calling the Great Cultural Renaissance. Dr. Vasquez, "We're receiving confirmation from the Meridian Coalition," announced her assistant, a young Corvani researcher named Velcan, who had chosen to study under human tutelage. "They've agreed to participate in the Cultural Exchange Network. That brings our total to 43 participating civilizations." Elena smiled as she reviewed the transmission. The Cultural Exchange Network had grown from humanity's preservation project into something far more ambitious, a galaxy-spanning initiative to document, preserve, and share the achievements of every willing civilization. But, more than preservation, it had become a tool for fostering understanding and cooperation between species that had previously viewed each other with suspicion. "Excellent work, Velcan. Please coordinate with Ambassador Torres to arrange the integration ceremony." The integration ceremonies had become one of the most significant diplomatic events in galactic politics. When a civilization joined the Cultural Exchange Network, they committed to preserving not just their own heritage, but to contributing to the preservation of other cultures as well. The ceremonies celebrated this commitment while showcasing the unique contributions each species brought to the growing repository of galactic civilization. Elena's personal communication device chimed with an urgent message from Admiral Webb, who now commanded the preservation fleet, a collection of vessels designed to carry the preserved heritage of multiple civilizations to safety in case of galactic catastrophe. "Dr. Vasquez, we need you at the Nexus facility immediately. We've received a communication that's going to change everything." The urgency in Webb's voice sent Elena hurrying to the transportation hub. The Nexus facility orbited Earth's moon and served as the central coordination point for all preservation activities. As her shuttle approached the massive structure, Elena marveled at how much had changed since the original Corvani Preservation Initiative. The facility now housed preservation systems for dozens of civilizations, research laboratories where species collaborated on advancing preservation technology, and diplomatic chambers where the complex logistics of galactic cooperation were managed. Most remarkably, it was staffed by volunteers from across the galaxy who had dedicated their lives to ensuring that no civilization's achievements would ever be lost. Webb met her at the docking bay, his expression mixing excitement with profound concern. "Elena, we've received a transmission from beyond the galactic rim. Long-range sensors have detected what appears to be artificial structures at distances that should be impossible for any known civilization. Elena's mind raced through the implications. You're talking about extragalactic contact. More than that, Webb replied as they hurried through the facility's corridors. The structures appear to be preservation vessels similar to our own design, but operating on scales that dwarf even our most ambitious projects. Someone or something is preserving entire galactic civilizations. They entered the central command chamber where First Speaker Thaindok waited alongside Ambassador Torres and a collection of the galaxy's most brilliant scientific minds. The holographic display at the center of the room showed long-range sensor data that challenged everything they thought they knew about the scope of intelligence in the universe. Dr. Vasquez, Thaindok said, his ancient voice carrying undertones that suggested profound awe. Please review these readings and provide your analysis. Elena studied the data with growing amazement. The structures detected beyond the galactic rim were vast beyond comprehension. Artificial constructs that appeared to contain the preserved remains of entire galaxy-spanning civilizations. The energy signatures suggested technology that operated on principles she couldn't begin to understand. "This is incredible," she whispered. "If these readings are accurate, we're looking at preservation efforts that span multiple galaxies and timeframes measured in billions of years." Ambassador Torres leaned forward. "Elena, the implications go beyond simple preservation. Whoever built these structures appears to have been collecting and safeguarding the achievements of civilizations across cosmic history." Webb activated additional displays showing analysis results that had been compiled over the past several days. "Our technical teams believe that what we're seeing represents an intelligence or civilization that has dedicated itself to preserving the cultural heritage of entire galactic clusters. The scale suggests capabilities that exceed our most advanced projections by orders of magnitude." Elena felt a chill of recognition as the full implications became clear. "We're looking at what humanity might become if we continue following our current path for millions of years. This is preservation as a cosmic force." The chamber fell silent as everyone contemplated the possibility that humanity's gratitude-driven obsession with preservation might represent an evolutionary path that other intelligences had followed to unimaginable extremes. "There's more," Webb continued, his voice tense. "Analysis suggests that these preservation structures are not inactive monuments. Energy patterns indicate ongoing activity, maintenance, expansion, and what appears to be active collection of new civilizations." Thaindok's expression showed the complex patterns that indicated deep philosophical consideration. "If Dr. Vasquez's interpretation is correct, we may be observing evidence of a species or intelligence that has evolved beyond individual civilization to become custodians of intelligence itself." The possibility was staggering. Humanity's dedication to preserving Corvani culture had grown into a galaxy-spanning movement to safeguard all civilizations. If the extragalactic structures represented the ultimate evolution of that same impulse, it suggested that preservation might be a fundamental force in the universe's development. "Dr. Vasquez, Admiral Webb," Ambassador Torres said carefully, "we need to consider our response very carefully. If these structures represent active preservation intelligence, our own activities might have attracted their attention." Elena nodded, her mind racing through the possibilities. "If they've been observing our preservation efforts, they might view us as potential successors or partners in their work." "Or threats," Webb added grimly. "An intelligence capable of preserving entire galaxies would view any emerging preservation civilization with extreme caution until their intentions became clear." As if summoned by their discussion, the chamber's communication system activated with an incoming transmission that made everyone freeze in shock. The signal was coming from the direction of the extragalactic structures, and it was specifically addressed to the Human Corvani Preservation Partnership. "This is the Eternal Archive calling to the civilizations of Galaxy Designation NGC 5457. We have observed your preservation activities with great interest. Your development of cultural safeguarding technology and cooperative preservation networks indicates potential compatibility with the Archive's mission. We request dialogue regarding your intentions and possible integration into the Universal Preservation Protocol. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. They had not only made contact with an extragalactic intelligence, but that intelligence specifically acknowledged their preservation work and was interested in cooperation. "They've been watching us," Elena whispered. "Our entire preservation movement has been observed and evaluated by something that operates on galactic scales." First speaker Thane Doak rose slowly, his ancient dignity serving him well in this unprecedented situation. "Honored colleagues, we appear to have reached another paradigm moment. 800 years ago, humanity was pardoned by the Corvani and began a journey toward preservation and cooperation. Today, we discover that journey may lead toward responsibility for preserving intelligence itself throughout the universe." Admiral Webb checked his tactical displays instinctively. First speaker, "We need to consider the possibility that this contact represents a test. If the Eternal Archive has been preserving galactic civilizations for billions of years, they would have learned to be cautious about emerging preservation species." Ambassador Torres activated her diplomatic protocols. "I recommend that we respond with a formal statement acknowledging their contact while requesting detailed information about their preservation protocols and the Universal Preservation Protocol they mentioned." Elena found herself thinking about the progression that had brought them to this moment. Humanity's gratitude for Corvani mercy had led to technological advancement, cultural preservation, and galactic cooperation. Now it appeared that the same impulse might connect them to cosmic forces dedicated to safeguarding intelligence across the entire universe. "Admiral, Ambassador, first speaker," she said slowly. "I think we need to consider the possibility that this entire progression was inevitable. If intelligence naturally develops toward preservation of other intelligences, then what we've experienced may represent a universal evolutionary path." The implications were staggering. If preservation represented a natural evolution of intelligence, then humanity's response to Corvani mercy might not have been unusual. It might have been part of a cosmic pattern that connected civilizations across time and space. "Dr. Vasquez," Thane Doak said thoughtfully, "your suggestion implies that mercy and preservation are not random virtues but fundamental forces that drive the evolution of intelligence itself." Elena nodded. "It would explain why our preservation efforts resonated so strongly throughout the galaxy, and why so many species were eager to participate in cultural safeguarding. We might have been responding to a universal impulse toward protecting and honoring the achievements of intelligence wherever it develops." Webb's tactical training led him to consider the practical implications. If preservation is a universal impulse, then the Eternal Archive represents what humanity could become given enough time and resources. The question becomes whether we're ready for that responsibility. The Chamber's communication system activated again, this time with a different message from the Eternal Archive. "Civilizations of NGC 5457, we understand this contact represents a significant development in your species' evolution. We offer you time to consider our invitation. The Universal Preservation Protocol has waited billions of years for new members. We can wait longer if necessary." The message included data packages containing information about preservation techniques that exceeded humanity's most advanced capabilities, records of civilizations preserved across cosmic history, and glimpses of the vast network of archive structures that spanned multiple galactic clusters. "They're sharing their knowledge," Elena breathed. "This isn't conquest or domination. It's an invitation to join something larger than anything we've imagined." Ambassador Torres reviewed the transmitted data with growing amazement. "The preservation techniques they're sharing could extend our capabilities by millions of years. With this technology, we could safeguard not just cultural heritage but entire species, ecosystems, even planetary systems against cosmic catastrophes." First speaker Thane Doak studied the information with the patience of someone who had overseen humanity's development for centuries. "The offer represents the ultimate evolution of the choice I made 800 years ago. I chose mercy for a primitive human colony, and that mercy has grown into an invitation to help preserve intelligence throughout the universe." Elena felt tears forming as the full circle of history became clear. First speaker, Your decision to pardon humanity didn't just save our species. It set in motion a chain of events that led us to become worthy of preserving intelligence itself on cosmic scales. Webb checked the technical specifications included in the archive transmission. The responsibility would be enormous. Universal preservation would require dedicating our entire civilization to safeguarding others rather than pursuing our own advancement. But isn't that what we've already been doing? Elena asked. Our entire culture is built around honoring those who showed us mercy and preserving the achievements of civilizations we've learned from. Ambassador Torres smiled as understanding dawned. The Eternal Archive sees us as natural successors because we've already demonstrated that we choose preservation over conquest, cooperation over dominance, and honor over ambition. As they continued studying the information provided by the Eternal Archive, the scope of what they were being offered became clear. Joining the Universal Preservation Protocol would mean accepting responsibility for safeguarding the achievements of intelligence throughout the universe, ensuring that no civilization's contributions would ever be lost to time or catastrophe. It would mean that humanity's response to Corvani mercy 800 years ago had prepared them for the ultimate expression of gratitude, becoming guardians of intelligence itself across cosmic history. The Corvani had pardoned them once, and humanity had immortalized their name in ways that echoed through eternity. Now the universe was offering humanity the chance to immortalize every civilization that had ever achieved greatness, preserving their legacy against the heat-death of existence itself. First speaker Thaindok looked around the chamber at the representatives of species who had once been strangers, but had become partners in the greatest preservation effort in galactic history. It appears, he said with something that might have been cosmic amusement, that mercy truly does create bonds stronger than conquest. The question before us now is whether we are ready to extend that mercy to the universe itself. As they prepared to draft their response to the Eternal Archive, Elena realized that humanity's story had become something far greater than she had ever imagined. They had progressed from grateful refugees to cosmic guardians, carrying forward the principles of mercy and preservation that had saved them 8 centuries ago. The galaxy would remember this moment as the day humanity accepted their ultimate calling, becoming the inheritors not just of Corvani wisdom, but of the responsibility to ensure that intelligence itself would survive until the end of time. Gratitude had become immortality, memory had become cosmic purpose, and mercy had become the foundation for preserving the universe's greatest achievements for eternity.